Every story begins with fear. For Bruce Wayne, that fear was born in an alleyway. The sound of a gunshot, the echo of his mother's pearls scattering across the pavement, and the realization that the world was fragile. He grew up believing that power without accountability was what broke the world. So when Superman appeared, the man who could bend steel with his hands and level cities with a glance, Bruce felt something he hadn't felt in years. Fear. The world saw Superman as a savior, a god come to Earth. He was hope in a red cape. But to Batman he was something else entirely, a variable that couldn't be controlled, a weapon with no off switch. When the sky over Metropolis glowed red with alien fire, and Superman fought General Zod, Bruce didn't see a hero saving humanity. He saw a god waging war in a city full of humans. He saw towers collapse. He saw lives vanish. He saw the same helplessness in others that he once felt as a boy. In the ashes of that destruction, Bruce's fear turned to conviction. If Superman ever turned against them, no army, no nation, no god could stop him. He began to study him, every appearance, every act of heroism, every moment of restraint. Bruce didn't doubt Superman's morality. He doubted his permanence. Because morality can change. Even gods fall. Batman's distrust wasn't born out of hate. It was born out of understanding. He knew what power does to men. He'd seen it corrupt, twist, destroy. And Superman, no matter how kind, was still a man. In secret, Bruce began constructing failsafes. Contingencies. A sliver of kryptonite acquired through black channels. A prototype armor resistant to alien energy. Satellites capable of tracking Superman's flight path. And most dangerous of all, a plan to end him if the day ever came. Because Batman's mind works in absolutes. Where others see good intentions, he sees potential outcomes. And in every version of those outcomes, if Superman ever loses control, humanity loses everything. Still, there was something deeper driving him. Something more personal than logic. Superman represents everything Bruce isn't. Light, trust, faith, hope. And for a man who's built his life around fear, hope feels like a lie. A comforting illusion that distracts people from the reality of evil. When the Daily Planet writes headlines about Superman's miracles, Bruce sees dependency growing. He sees humanity kneeling before an alien. He sees worship. And worship, he believes, always ends in betrayal. So while the world celebrates Superman's victories, Batman stands alone in the dark, watching from a distance. He studies the savior the way a hunter studies a beast. Quietly, patiently, obsessively. And when Alfred questions him, asks why he's so consumed by a man who's done nothing wrong, Bruce answers with a single truth. He doesn't need to do something wrong. He just needs to exist. It's not malice. It's preparation. Because to Bruce Wayne, trust is a luxury the world cannot afford when the stakes are godlike. In his mind, the moment humanity puts its faith in one man, no matter how noble, it becomes weak. And Batman can't stand weakness. Not in himself. Not in others. Not in the species he's sworn to protect. He's seen what blind trust leads to. It leads to death in an alleyway. It leads to people waiting for heroes who never come. So when Superman saves a plane from crashing, Batman doesn't see salvation. He sees dependency. When Superman smiles for cameras, Batman sees propaganda. When Superman claims he's here to help, Batman hears control. To most, Superman is a dream come true. To Batman, he's a dream too dangerous to last. And though Bruce would never admit it out loud, deep down he knows something darker, that maybe his distrust isn't entirely about Superman. Maybe it's about himself. Because if Batman had Superman's power, he knows exactly what he would do with it. And that's why he'll never stop watching him. Never stop planning. Never stop preparing for the day when the god among men stops pretending to be human. They call Superman the man of tomorrow. But for Batman, tomorrow is a word that means uncertainty, uncontrolled, unpredictable, dangerous. And if the world's hope rests in the hands of an alien, then tomorrow itself is a threat. As the years pass, their paths cross again and again. Each time, the same tension hums beneath the surface, light and darkness orbiting one another, never truly touching. Superman believes in redemption. Batman believes in consequence. One saves, the other prevents. One flies through the clouds, the other crawls through the mud. When Superman looks at Batman, he sees a man trapped by his trauma, consumed by paranoia. But when Batman looks at Superman, he sees a creature blinded by optimism, too naive to understand how fragile the world truly is. And that difference, that clash of philosophies, becomes the foundation of their conflict. Superman's strength inspires others. Batman's fear controls them. Superman raises the symbol of hope. Batman becomes the warning of its cost. Both men believe they're doing what's right, yet both stand ready to stop the other if right ever turns wrong. In the shadows of Gotham, Bruce's plans evolve. He studies Kryptonian biology, weaponizes fragments of kryptonite into microcharges, and develops countermeasures hidden across the city. Not because he wants to kill Superman, but because he refuses to let any being be above judgment. He watches Superman in action, how he saves, how he chooses who to save, how he hesitates when faced with moral gray areas. Bruce records every hesitation, every choice, because to the world, Superman is flawless. To Batman, every flaw is a potential disaster waiting to happen. But deep inside, Bruce's obsession begins to warp. It's no longer about safety. It's about control. The more the world loves Superman, the less it fears Batman. And Bruce feels it, the shift in the air, the whispers of Gotham's people saying maybe Batman isn't needed anymore. That maybe hope is stronger than fear. For a man who built his crusade on terror, that's not just an insult. It's erasure. And when a god like Superman makes Batman feel powerless, that powerlessness burns like acid. It reminds him of the boy in the alley, the one who couldn't stop the trigger, the one who couldn't protect what mattered most. So he convinces himself it's logic, not emotion, that drives his suspicion. But in truth, it's both. It's fear disguised as strategy. And that makes it unstoppable. Meanwhile, Superman continues to trust in humanity, even Batman. He doesn't retaliate. He doesn't strike. He sees through the armor, through the anger, and into the heart of the man beneath it. He knows Bruce is what he could have been, if Clark had fallen to pain instead of hope. But that doesn't stop Batman from preparing for the day their ideologies collide. Because to Bruce, trusting Superman is gambling with existence. And the only way to keep existence safe is to be ready to destroy the thing that threatens it. One night, Clark confronts him on a Gotham rooftop. The city below glows red from the neon lights, rain streaking down the cowl and cape. Clark lands gently. "You don't trust me, do you?" Batman doesn't answer immediately. He stands still, the glow of kryptonite faintly pulsing under his gauntlet. "I trust what I can predict," Bruce finally says. "And I can't predict a god." Superman sighs, almost saddened. "Then you'll never see what I truly am." Bruce turns, voice low and sharp. "I see exactly what you are. I see what happens if you lose control for 1 second. Superman's eyes flash for a moment. Not in anger, but in pain. He understands now. Batman isn't fighting him. He's fighting the ghost of the alleyway. But as he takes off into the sky, Bruce whispers to himself, "One day, you'll fall. And I'll be ready." That night, Alfred looks at him, weary. "You've built an entire world around fear, Master Bruce. But what happens when fear isn't enough?" Bruce doesn't answer. He just looks at the data streams, the motion trackers, the hidden contingencies, because deep down, he knows the truth. If Superman ever truly lost control, Batman's fear might be the only thing keeping the world alive. And yet, he can't shake the feeling that maybe, just maybe, his distrust isn't protecting the world anymore. It's isolating him from it. He's become the shadow watching the sun. And no matter how long he watches, the sun keeps rising. But soon, Bruce will learn something that changes everything. That even gods bleed. Every man has a breaking point. And for Bruce Wayne, it came the day he realized Superman could destroy everything he'd ever built. without even meaning to. A rescue gone wrong. A single mistake. 1,000 dead in an instant. The kind of mistake only a god could make. The world still forgave him. But Batman didn't. He couldn't. Because to forgive was to forget what that kind of power could do. After Metropolis burned, Bruce made a vow. He wouldn't let humanity worship gods who could fail them. He would make sure there was always a way to stop them, no matter the cost. So when Superman stood before governments, before cameras, swearing he was on humanity's side, Bruce saw something else. Not a hero. A threat wrapped in hope. The people cheered his name, raised his symbol like a flag. But Bruce saw the subtle shift, how governments began to rely on Superman's presence, how the military stood down when he appeared, how people stopped acting, waiting for him to act instead. That's what frightened Bruce the most. Not that Superman could rule, but that humanity would let him. He once told Alfred, "If you make people believe someone will always save them, they'll stop saving themselves." And in that idea lies the heart of Batman's distrust. Because while Superman inspires, Batman reminds. One lifts people up, the other forces them to face what they are. But if Superman's light burns too bright, it blinds. When Lex Luthor begins his manipulations, feeding fear, twisting Superman's image, Bruce finds himself caught between two truths. 1. Lex is dangerous. 2. Lex isn't entirely wrong. He begins to question himself. Is his paranoia still logic, or has it become obsession? Is he protecting the world, or just protecting his worldview? And then, one night, the world finally gives him proof of his fears. Superman, manipulated, enraged, stands over a burning city. His mind not his own, his power unchecked. Bruce watches through satellite feeds as destruction ripples like thunder. He dons the kryptonite armor. He doesn't hesitate. For him, it's not about victory. It's about control. When he faces Superman, it's not rage that drives him. It's necessity. The rain falls heavy, the sky trembling with the weight of gods at war. Every punch Bruce lands is desperation. Every strike from Superman is restraint. Neither truly wants this fight. But destiny leaves no choice. When the kryptonite spear pierces the ground between them, Bruce finally sees it. The look in Clark's eyes. Not anger, not arrogance. Fear. Superman isn't the god Bruce imagined. He's a man terrified of what he could become. A being with power beyond measure who still doubts himself every day. And in that realization, Batman's armor feels heavier than ever. He spent years preparing to destroy something that might never have needed destroying. Superman looks up, voice weak. "You're not my enemy, Bruce." But Batman's mind replays years of pain, loss, and helplessness. He whispers, "If I let myself believe that, the world ends." Then something happens that breaks the illusion. The word, Martha. A name that cuts through armor, through rage, through decades of pain. The same name as his mother. The same humanity he thought Superman could never have. And suddenly Bruce sees it. Not an alien. Not a god. Just a man. A son, terrified of losing what little he loves. In that moment, Batman's distrust collapses into understanding. Because fear can't survive empathy. The kryptonite weapon falls. The armor powers down. And Bruce, for the first time in decades, looks at another man not as a threat, but as a mirror. Later, when the dust settles, Bruce confides in Alfred. "I was wrong," he says quietly. "He's not our enemy. He's the reminder that even gods can choose to be good." Alfred nods. "And perhaps, sir, that's what you needed to believe in again." From that day forward, Batman's distrust doesn't vanish, but it evolves. It becomes vigilance without hatred, preparation without paranoia, respect built on truth. He still keeps his contingencies because that's who he is. But now, when Superman soars above the clouds, Batman no longer sees a ticking bomb. He sees a man carrying a burden no one else could. And in the end, that's what unites them. Not friendship, not faith, but understanding. Because both of them know the same truth: hope without caution becomes blindness. Fear without hope becomes tyranny. But together, they create balance. The shadow learns from the sun. The sun finds strength in the shadow. And somewhere in Gotham, as the bat signal burns against the stormy sky, Bruce looks up and whispers, "Don't fail us, Clark." In the distance, high above the clouds, Superman smiles. Not because Batman finally trusts him, but because he finally doesn't need to.